Hey everyone, welcome. We just got the closing bell for Monday, July. We were hoping that we'd get some volume picking up, get some activity going this week. So far, nothing, but we don't really have any stimuli until Thursday or Friday. So not too surprising, but let's take a look at just how low or how unvolatile the day was. You can see that SPY, just this tiny, tiny little bar. It's a doji that basically closed almost exactly where it opened, and we're only up 0.13%. So you can see it traded in a very tight range and basically went nowhere today. If I look at on a intraday chart, you can see that it basically just traversed. I should probably, this is more minor. I'll just make that thinner. And basically just traversed this region right here. And mostly, for most of the day, it stayed low, stayed below this VWAP. What that means is that sellers were mostly in control. So that even though we didn't really move down overall on the day, there's a lot of selling pressure in this market. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll carry over until tomorrow, but it will influence what happens over in London and over in Asia. And then tomorrow morning, depending on what happens in those two markets, we'll see where we open up. But there is some selling pressure happening right now. This is the opposite of what we saw on Friday, where basically it was above that VWAP all day, and we just kept on going higher and higher. So we're starting to see some selling pressure come into this market. Again, it doesn't mean it'll last for into tomorrow or for several days, but it is a sign of weakness. If we look at QQQ, it did a tiny bit better, up 0.23%, and not completely flat on the day, but as you can see, very limited range as well. If we look at SMH went up a little bit higher. This time it was not NVIDIA. NVIDIA is having a little bit of trouble still, but it was actually Taiwan Semiconductor. Taiwan Semiconductor gapped up, went to an all-new high, and then traded down, but still up 1.42% on the day. So this is starting to go parabolic into earnings. That's really interesting. So probably what's going to happen soon is that we're going to start going sideways, consolidating sideways into earnings. But it just had one last hurrah, or maybe it has another one in it before it starts flattening out. But my expectation is that it would flatten out into earnings, maybe pull a loop back a little bit into earnings. So really, there's not much to look at because the index is so flat and so low volume. We're only at 20.3 million on a 50 million average. Even if we get 10 million in dark pool action, that's still 30 million on 50 million. That's only 60%. So this is even lower volume than what we were seeing in the previous week, although this one was about 32 million. So about the same as Wednesday, right before July 4th. We really need to see volume come back into the market. We need institutions to come back before we can really get any direction, as we were talking about this morning. So we're really just looking at later this week. Tomorrow, Powell might cause a little bit of volatility, and then Wednesday should be relatively quiet, and then all of the action is going to be here on CPI plus the earnings that are coming out on Thursday morning. And so we've got, I think, Pepsi, Conagra, and maybe Delta Airlines. So mostly staples, but for the most part, usually the earnings season really kicks off with financials. So on Friday, that's when we're starting to get big banks like Citigroup, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and then throughout next week, we'll get more and more financials, and then we'll start to get some tech. So we'll really want to watch those very carefully. We could get some really interesting overnight or earnings trades or run into earnings trades. So that should bring us some volatility. We were talking about the risk of the earnings causing a pullback in these markets. So we'll just wait and see. I think now, let's take a look at VIX. Yeah, VIX traded up, but came right back down. sort of like this day over here, back on July 1st, last Monday, so a week ago. This is, given what we're seeing and given what's coming up in the next week, I'd be comfortable putting on a VIX hedge right now. So we could just maybe take a quick look at a VIX hedge. And we would go, we'd want to give it at least a couple of weeks. So, and then we don't want time to erode. So I would go at least 3 or 4 weeks out. So that would be, what is it, 19th would be 2, 3. I might as well take a look at the 16th over here. And maybe slightly in the money, or we could go right at the money or slightly in the money. That would be okay. Let's just do, I need the options chain. I can't just do it like this. We'll just take a look at it. We'll just price in at the money for now. So I'll just save that. And I'll call, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. VIX at the money, August 16th. And I'll save that. We'll call this hedge. Okay. And if I took a look at the option chain, I might choose a slightly different one, a little bit in the money, just to get a little bit of margin. But really, VIX is really low right now, 12.36. How much lower can it go? Really, realistically, maybe 11.9. This low over here was extremely low. That was 11.4. And we're talking about it hedging against a movement that goes at least to this 14.6 area, probably higher. If we're really going to have a pullback, we'll probably spike up a little bit. So let's take a quick look just so we know, have an idea. Last time we pulled back to the EMA 20, okay, EMA 20. So we would just call it from May 15th to May 30th. That was really just a reversion to the mean. So we'll take a look at this pullback in just a moment. But May 15th to May 30th. So that was May 15th. That was down near the levels where we are right now to May 30th. Okay, so we went up to 14.7. So that was just a reversion to the EMA 20. So we would expect at least that. We're actually more expecting to pull back to the MA 50. So let's see what that might look like. Okay, so if I start, just say over here, or maybe over here, April 1st, down to, well, they went below, let's just say equivalent move, because this was 5%, 6%. And we're expecting about, if we do get the pullback, we would expect roughly 5%. Okay, so it's a comparable April 1st down to April 19th. So that's April 1st, and then April 19th was way up here. So it spiked up to 21 point something. So this is a good hedge because we're looking at, if we weren't leveraged, let's just say pure VIX values, we're looking at 12.35 down to 0.45. So that's 90 cents, or 12.35 up to 21.35 versus 9. So that's a 10-to-1 reward risk ratio. That is extreme. That is a lot. So we wouldn't realistically be trading that or looking for that. We're not going to catch the exact bottom or the exact top, but that's just to show the potential. Even if it was 5-to-1, 500%, that would be crazy, or 300-to-1. That'd still be a really great trade. So this VIX is looking very good. I like it quite a bit. So we'll go ahead and I already saved it. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what the sectors did, and we'll wrap it up after that. Okay, so SMH up a tiny bit. Silver kind of flat, QQQ barely moving, XLK barely moving up, XLC pulling back down a little bit, but still looking very healthy. SPY flat, and gold sideways choppy movement. Financials choppy sideways, biotech choppy sideways, staples choppy sideways, choppy sideways, choppy sideways, choppy sideways. Recently chopping sideways, looking like it might try to bounce, but struggling right there. Energies pulling back down. Okay, so now is not a good time to go back into energies. We were talking about this breaking that trend line, but it went right back in. Actually, it hit that MA50 and came right back in, and it's just staying down here, looking like it's going to move downwards. If it can't hold this horizontal or roughly the MA200, then that's going to keep on going downwards. Dow Jones sideways, XLY, nice trend upwards, but getting a little too far from the moving averages and a flat day today. Home builders trending down. The other day, we were looking at home builders as shorts opportunities. That still looks like that's going to be a really good idea. Retail looks like it's about to break down. And materials similar to retail. And that was another one that we were identifying as possible shorts right here. Sideways on the Russell, real estate, and TLT. Okay, we already talked about TLT this morning. So let's just see where money shifted and moved around today. And that'll be it. Okay, so XBI up 1.5. That's interesting. Biotech. Biotech was looking sideways though, right? Yeah, let's just chop sideways. I wouldn't get too excited about that. Semiconductors. Okay, it's still carrying the markets even today. So semiconductors up 1.25 is second strongest behind biotech. And even with those two up as high as they are, the S&P was flat, just barely went up 0.13%. So this market basically is not exhibiting very much strength. So we just want to be careful. That VIX trade looks great and appropriate. A VIX hedge is perfect right now. So I'm glad we took a look at that example. So right now, I wouldn't really be trading overall markets or even individual stocks. Right now is just holding positions that you like and then hedging them appropriately. So that's it for today. Let's have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.